Okay, so this is the 1100 gallon, 1200 gallon Mata tank. All three of them are in here now, plus my Australian snake neck, long neck turtle, northern snake neck turtle. This is the clearest it's been, so I haven't recorded for a long time just because I've been waiting for the water to clear up. I've got a group of 9 Severums, red shoulder and regular green Severums. I introduce golden shiners for food. They utilize the cave or that space that I provided underneath the filtration system. As a matter of fact, if you look in the very back there, one of the turtles is kind of poking his head out. The issues I've been having is there's been a lot of sediment in here and a lot of stuff that was clouding the water, and it's taken me a long time to figure out how to balance that out. For now, what I've been doing is putting filter floss at the overflow and then tying it in so that all of the water has to pass either above it, underneath it, or through it to catch as much of that particulate matter as it can, and then doing massive water changes. The way I've got it situated, there's plenty of areas that provide sight breaks so that they're not right on top of each other. And then, funny enough, the way I've got these logs set situated, if either of the males are harassing the female too much and she doesn't want them on her, she can actually knock them off just by crawling over and under these logs, and then it drags the males off if they don't duck. So it's it actually came out pretty well. I've got some plants growing for vegetable filter system, but obviously that's going to take a long time for them to really get established and for them to really carry their weight. So until they do, I'm just doing 50% on average, 50% water changes once a week, once every other week, depending on how the water quality looks to me. My plan is still to try and figure out how to convert that space up there into a usable nest box for the female. My thought is to create a barrier that will allow for the water to flow freely underneath, but then pile sand on top. And then I may end up having to extend the back and then the sides on this end of the tank, just to ensure that nobody escapes. But no, the tank didn't disappear. It's up and running. I did have a couple of leaks that I did have to figure out. Once I figured those out, it's now secure. What I've got it running on is one 4,000 gallon per hour DC pump. Then for now, there's a massive, in the corner right here, there's a massive 9,000 gallon per hour pond pump. So this thing is running approximately 12,000 gallons, obviously give or take a little bit for head height, and then the water travel, the 12 feet to the overflow, approximately 12,000 gallons of water through the rocks and the gravel that are over here. It's probably too much, way too much water flow for the amount of rocks and gravel that I have, but I will deal with that and then figure out how to improve on it from there. I would much rather it be a high turnover and it's constantly pushing water than a low turnover and it's not doing what it's supposed to. So overall, I say I'm pretty happy. I've noticed these guys are most active right when the lights go off. So at dusk, we'll say, there's a nice little moonlight feature that the Haiger lights, the strip light LEDs I have in the back here, there's one on each of the panels. So the strip lights that I have in the back there's a nice moonlight feature that it has that illuminates the tank at night, and then these guys seem to go crazy. That's when they're swimming around the most, that's when they're running around the tank the most, and then that's actually when they're doing the most damage to the feeders that I introduced. Having moved a couple of tanks around, my plan is going to be to start breeding live bearers and then get back to breeding convict cichlids and introducing them to this tank versus the golden shiners, because I know that still isn't the best food source, but I had to go with what space and time would afford up until this point. So yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on. Again, I'm not trying to be a YouTuber. I just want to document things that are going on or how my system is going and then everything. I have not had any issues with anybody not being able to reach the surface. The water depth from the bottom to the top to here is just around 30 inches, 31 inches. And then those guys have not had any issues with all the rocks that got piled up, as well as the driftwood with it hanging and balancing in the middle of the water column. It allows for them to use the driftwood in order to reach the surface and everything else. So, and then I tried to place rocks randomly so it didn't look quite so manicured. And then this is kind of the setup that I've gone with. I have been going in and placing rocks and then moving things around as I saw fit. My plan is actually to pile up the rocks a little bit taller in the back there, just to ensure that when it's time to start hauling out, there is no issue with getting up and over the rock pile. The female has not laid eggs in about a year. Not that I've noticed. It's been about a year since the last time she laid. I have separated her from the males several times within that year. Maybe I've broken up their breeding cycle, which that's fine, because as of now, I have not been, again, with all my moves and then everything else, that's a whole nother story. But then with everything else that's been going on with life, I haven't been able to dedicate time to trying to hatch eggs. And then I felt that she needed a long break from breeding anyway. So at this point, they're finally back together. They've been, the last time I separated them was almost 9 months. No. It's been, yeah, almost 9 months. I'm gonna say 7 months, 8 months. And then I finally just put them back together last weekend. So yeah, they're back together. Here's the system, the tank. This is the clearance it's been. This is why I'm only just now filming. And we will see how it goes from there. My plan is to add a couple more ornamental fish in the form of Oscars. I've got a couple that are growing out. I did have my 8-year-old Giardini arowana in here, but then there was a mishap with one of the pumps that ended up draining this tank, and it left about 4 inches, 5 inches of water in the bottom, but he was swimming on the side, and by the time I discovered it had been a couple hours because it happened overnight. He didn't recover, so I ended up losing that fish, which really broke my heart. So I don't know if I want to grow out another one or go with because it's pretty much minus the Australian snake neck turtle. This is pretty much, and then excuse the glare, it's pretty much the South American theme. I don't know if I want to go with a silver arowana or a Giardini arowana. I don't even know if I want to add another arowana. I have to make the decision. But this is the system so far.